America, United States of America, in Georgia. A rabbi I believe we've mentioned about on a few occasions before, Rabbi George Jacobs. Now, he was born all the way back in the year 1834, and he passed away in 1884. So he was about 50 years of age. And if you guys recollect, we did record a video on the history of Jamaica at one stage in time. And over there, I think we did mention him. He was a Jamaican-American rabbi, we have to point out, a very, very famous one. So, Rabbi, I think we mentioned about beforehand. So he passed away on July the 14th, 1884. He was born actually in 1834 in Kingston in Jamaica. He happened to be. He was the son of Samuel and Rebecca Jacobs, and his brother was another famous man, Henry S. Jacobs, who was actually Rabbi Henry S. Jacobs. Let's speak about his brother for a couple of minutes. His himself passed away around the same a window of time afterwards, I think, back in the year 1893, if I'm not mistaken. And he actually was born in 1827. He was a rabbi that would minister really in American South, New York City. He was also born, obviously, in Jamaica, his brother was, and would study under Moses N. Nathan, and then under Dr. Stern and Morona Stenkler. And I think in 1846, he was elected a master of the school attached to the German congregation in Kingston. He was 21 years of age. He would become the rabbi of Neve Shalom congregation in Spanish Town, and later became the rabbi of Sharei Shalom synagogue in Kingston. That's very interesting enough. I think that actually itself happened to have been I don't know if it originally was a Reform synagogue, but I think now currently it might be, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe then it was a window of time. I think in 1854 he would emigrate to America. His brother, New York City, would become the rabbi of the Kahal Kadosh Bet Shlomo. I think this happens to be a Jewish congregation that was located in Richmond, Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. Another famous place. I think he would become a rabbi of Sherit Israel in Charleston in South Carolina later on in 1862. That would have been, which we have to point out. So he took on various rabbinate roles, and then become the rabbi of the Nefutzot Yehuda Portuguese synagogue in New Orleans at one point in time. And I think he became a superintendent of the Hebrews Education Society. I think he was actually a conservative Jew, if I'm not mistaken, his brother was. And he would later on be appointed rabbi of the congregation Sherit Israel, Spanish-Portuguese synagogue over there. So I think that's actually an Orthodox synagogue over there. So I don't know if he always was under that category in of itself. He would also serve as a vice president of the New York branch of Alliance Israelite Universal, and would get an honorary DD degree, I believe, from the New York University. We have to point out also. I think he passed away in 1893, his brother, and he was a famous person. I think when he was buried, Rabbi Henry Pereira Mendez would be one of the people that would give him an address at that stage in time. But that's his brother, Henry S. Jacobs, who we're just speaking about today. But we're speaking about George Jacobs, who was another prominent rabbi. So when Rabbi Jacobs immigrated to America, he was about 20. I think he would settle in Richmond in Virginia, where he would work as a merchant. He later focused on, let's say, rabbinical studies and theological studies. And obviously, when we mentioned about his brother, Rabbi Henry, resigned as a Chazan of the Kahal Kadosh Ben Shlomo in 1857, he would then start officiating at that stage in time. Let's explore a bit within regards to the Kahal Kadosh. I believe very, very interesting, prominent place. I think very interesting place. I think was actually located in Richmond, Virginia. It was established way back in 1789, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was, let's speak a bit about it. I think it would later on merge with congregation Bet Ahaba. It was a Sephardi synagogue, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And the Bet Ahaba, I think, was a Portuguese Jewish community. I think currently it's a Reform synagogue. I don't know if it always was, to be honest with you. It was originally founded by a Portuguese community. So that will be actually interesting to know. I think later on, possibly maybe initially, if I'm not mistaken, it was an Orthodox community. Later on, it might, because of the Ashkenazic community growing at that point in time, maybe it would have changed at points of time. And I think would join in 1875 the Reform movement. So it could be that beforehand it would maybe considered Orthodox, but remember he would have been officiating there at, I think, Rabbi George Jacobs in 1857, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be before they would join this large reform movement. So it could be before. At that stage, I'm not too sure what the category actually was. He wasn't officially made minister of the congregation until 1866. And come 1869, he succeeded late Isaac Lisa as rabbi of the Bet El Emet in Philadelphia. I think he would serve as rabbi there for the rest of his life. He also served as an officer in the B'nai B'rith, in Kesher Shel Barzel, and Free Sons of Israel. He was a member of the Freemasons and a chaplain of the Grand Lodge. Now, he was reported over George Jacobs, Rabbi George Jacobs, a founder of the Young Men's Hebrew Association that was a recreational, let's say, social, fraternal organization in the Jewish community in the cities, promoting Jewish culture and heritage and holiday celebrations, I believe. The Board of Jewish Ministers of Philadelphia and the American Jewish Publication Society, so very much into press and publication. He would get married to Adeline H. Levy of Richmond. I think it was a ceremony that was performed by his brother Henry. And I think his father, if I'm not mistaken, her father, Adelaine's father, was Jacob A. Levy, who was a president of the Kahal Kadosh Bet Shlomo, if I'm not mistaken. Now, he passed away in the year 1884, so we can state quite a bit within regards to that. But we did speak about the Kahal Kadosh Bet Shlomo. So if anyone knows more clarity within regards to the status of the different periods of time, what it was, I really, really appreciate it to know, was it always, what domination would it have been considered on different sequences of time? Did it change at any stage in time or not? And I think a future leader of this synagogue after George Jacobs was someone named Jacob Ezekiel, who was the father of Moshe Jacob Ezekiel, if I'm not mistaken, who was a famous American sculptor, if I'm not mistaken. And he was actually famous known. Jacob Ezekiel, I think we did mention before, if I'm not mistaken, he was an American merchant, a leader of the Jewish community in Richmond, Virginia, and also was on a secretary of the board of Hebrew College and a charter member of the B'nai B'rith. So many of them would have these roles in the B'nai B'rith over there. But I think it's considered one of the oldest synagogues, if I'm not mistaken, in the United States of America. Now, I think he was buried in the Bet El Emet Cemetery. He was, I think it was connected in West Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken, to the Kahal Kadosh congregation, if I'm not mistaken. And I think they followed the Spanish and Portuguese rite. Obviously, many of the members would have been, if I'm not mistaken, German, but still it was considered, I think, a Spanish-Portuguese synagogue. And very interesting. So I think we talked about Rab Lesser, who was also a key rabbi at that stage in time. I think it was also connected to the Mikveh Israel, into some specific, let's just say, some specific sphere, you could say, within regards to that also. So that's very, very interesting. Friends, anyone tuning in, we're exploring the life of a famous Philadelphian rabbi, someone named Rabbi George Jacobs, who passed away on July the 14th, 1884. We're talking about 141 years ago. He was a rabbi, obviously, from Sephardic descent. And I think it was in the year 1854 where he would originally settled in Richmond, in Virginia, and was working in the ministry over there at various points in time. He was also a big contributor, I think, to the Philadelphia Jewish Press. He published several, let's say, catechisms and aided in the revision of English of the Zold Jastro prayer book, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not too sure much information within regards to that, just some information within regards to him. But we see that he would become a rabbi at a very young age. In fact, I think there's a lot chronicled over about him, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Jenny website itself will speak about it. I think he revised an English version of the Sold Jastro Siddur and is author of the, if I'm not mistaken, Catechism Elementary Instruction in the Hebrew Faith. That was printed in 1894. I think that was after he passed away. It would have been printed. So much was reported over within regards to him. So with his publications and so on and so forth. So let's explore a bit more within regards to him. I think he was actually 49 years of age when he passed away. So that's something else that we can point out. We've got I'm just looking at the moment at a family tree. I think he was the son of Samuel Jacobs and Rebecca Jacobs. He would have various children. I think, if I'm not mistaken, among his children, he was the father of Rebecca Garcia Jacobs. I think she lived between 1859 to 1952, if I'm not mistaken. And and Martha J. Jacobs also, who lived between 18. I think she only lived a few years, if I'm not mistaken, according to the Jenny website. She was born in 1860 and passed away in 1863, according to the Jenny website, geni.com. And there was also Ella Jacobs, another one of his children. She passed away in 1917, if I'm not mistaken. Samuel Jacobs also, who was, I think, passed away in 1916. And I think there were various other children also, if I'm not mistaken. So there was also another Henry S. Jacobs and other children also. So that's very interesting. You can actually see some information within regards to that various different publications, let's just say, the places he had in of itself. So I think his family, or he himself, maybe had a British accent. And I think there's a lot actually information about him on the Jewish Encyclopedia or various different encyclopedias, if I'm not mistaken. I think another one of his children was Virginia Brandon Jacobs, if I'm not mistaken, born in 1870. Also, Isabel Mood Jacobs, born in 1872. And Emil Van Bale Jacobs was born in the year 1875, we have to point over. That's just a few tidbits within regards to the family tree of his, let's just say, in of itself. So he was over there, famous rabbi of his time, and I think we did speak about him. I recommend everyone, if you didn't watch yet the video that we recorded with regards to the history of the United States of America, we're still actually in the middle of this specific series, we have to point out. Please look back on the United States of America, various different videos that were recorded within regards to, let's just say, famous Jewish personalities over there, and so on and so forth. So that's very interesting. We're going to explore maybe a few highlights of more within regards to him. In a minute, I'm just going to take a short 1 minute break, and then we'll come back and conclude and share over a few last thoughts within regards to that famous period in of itself. Yeah, sorry everyone, thanks for waiting. We just took a short break. We are speaking about a famous rabbi, Rabbi George Jacobs, at his point in time. We've spoken about him in the program that we did within regards to the United States of America, which I believe we actually recorded quite recently. We still got another maybe one or two parts within regards to the history of the United States of America. Also, but he was a key rabbi in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia was one of the central places at that stage in time in Spanish and Portuguese Jewish communities that we have to point out over there. So he was very, very much taking on various different important roles. I think it was time period when many Sephardim, Ashkenazim were there. We actually did several videos within regards to many of the synagogues that Rabbi Jacobs was connected to over there. So I think there was a Sephardi Kahal Kadosh Bet Shlomo, and later on it will merge with a Reform synagogue called the Congregation Bet Ahab. And then that would really, I think originally it was a real Sephardic synagogue beforehand. And I think that was in 1898, if I'm not mistaken. This is within regards to the Kahal Kadosh Bet Shlomo synagogue over there. So that's very, very interesting. So yeah, he was famous. Rabbi George Jacobs was in his time period. He's a key rabbi also, you could say, that make an imprint. And obviously he was in America at that point in time. The Spanish Portuguese was one of the main communities, much more bigger than you could say than it is now here in the current day. We spoke about his brother, Henry S. Jacobs, already over here today. The other key rabbis that we mentioned about before was Rabbi Henry Pereira Mendez. I think he had a connection with the Jacobs brothers. Mendez Jacobs was actually born in 1852. He passed away way later in 1937. I think he was actually from England, Rabbi Mendez was. And he actually died in New York City and was also known as Chaim Pereira Mendez. He came from a rabbinic line, let's just say. His father was Rabbi Abraham Pereira Mendez, who was Rabbi of Kingston and Montego Bay in Jamaica, in Birmingham in England. And his grandfather was Rabbi David Aaron de Sola, who was a rabbi of Bevis Mark Synagogue. And his great-grandfather was Rabbi Raphael Meldola, a chief Sephardic rabbi of London in the United Kingdom. I think his brother was Frederick de Sola Mendes, who was also a rabbi, an author, and editor. So very, very interesting. And you can see the various important roles many of these rabbis had at this stage in time. It was leading community, many of these synagogues, especially the Congregation She'erit Yisrael, if I'm not mistaken, over there. And yeah, very, very interesting. Many of these rabbis at that point in time were Zionists. They were very musical. They took on various different other worlds. They were also very worldly, you could also point out, definitely to describe them over there. So yeah, so we spoke about Rabbi George Jacobs. His brother, Rabbi Henry Jacobs, was one of many famous rabbis of the She'erit Yisrael. I think his brother, just to go back to his brother over here, Rabbi Henry Jacobs, he was a rabbi between 1874 to 1876 of the famous Congregation She'erit Yisrael. It's a very well decorated synagogue, let's just say, that had famous rabbis, including Rabbi Gershom Mendes Siaxas, who was a rabbi also. Rabbi Henry Pereira Mendez was rabbi there. I think currently Rabbi Meir Soloveitchik is there. Rabbi Chaim Angel and Rabbi Mark Angel took on the positions between 1969 to 2013, obviously at different stages, if I'm not mistaken. So you can see really the brilliance about various of the rabbis from this community. That's something that we very much have to point out over here. So that's, if you recollect, we did record a video, I believe, on the history of the She'erit Yisrael synagogue. They've got many famous members also, but yeah, that's definitely for another time. But we were speaking about Rabbi George Jacobs today, and also we did touch on very much so about Rabbi Henry S. Jacobs. Really, they would make their mark in the various different places also. And I think there's a lot of articles with regards to Rabbi Jacobs. I think the National Library of Israel will also include some of his teachings, if I'm not mistaken. And there's other historical Jewish presses that will quote him and mention him in various places also, which is something that I have to point out. So if anyone's an academic and they want to look more into him, I very, very much recommend that. I think there was an article, or the Occident, an American Jewish advocate, if I'm not mistaken, that was possibly connected to him. That's something that we have to point out, and various other articles also. If I'm not mistaken, much of it actually is featured, I believe, in Google Books still. And I think Isaac Marcuse, who was a famous Jewish American writer, I think, write about him, if I'm not mistaken, in various places. But I have to double check. He was actually from New York and was actually born in the 1846 and passed away in 1928, being a famous writer. There was obviously the Jewish encyclopedia at that stage in time, and so on and so forth. So much information can be read. Now, before I go away, first of all, friends, please subscribe to our channel now. We are nearing, at the moment, a staggering 8,000 subscribers, which is an absolute phenomenal achievement, friends, which I didn't think we would actually get to at any stage of time, especially initially. So please don't forget to subscribe and join our community. We spoke about Rabbi George Jacobs over here, a decorated rabbi, we could say, from his period in time, well known. He lived at a time period where it was really Jewish life at that point in time, Spanish and Portuguese, was really, you could say, bubbling at that point in time. So he was a key rabbi at that stage, without a doubt. So that's something that we very much have to point over within regards to him. And friends, also on this channel, we are doing an exciting new series where we're going to explore various different cities across Israel, the Jewish history within regards to many of the different places. Very, very excited about it. Hope we'll be able to go from strength to strength within regards to that, and just keeping up the important and very, very good work that we have been doing on that. So friends, I've watched all of that. We are recording also videos on the history of various Jewish communities in across the globe. We explore and we look into the various different places, what actually went on at various stages of times within regards to anti-Semitism. Was it really bad or not? And the different happenings and how other countries were, let's just say, connected to Israel. How did they respond when a crisis occurred in Israel, and so on and so forth, or when there was war? So we're trying to really get a nice backbone of the Jewish community history in various countries. Also a very exciting project. We have every single time a Jewish personality or rabbinic personality that really, really inspire us with every single day with a tidbit. We've got various rabbis that we've had, and I recommend everyone to actually look into that in a huge, huge way, because there's so much more information to take over. But thanks everyone for watching. Watch over the previous videos. Also, friends, we've already recorded, I believe, as many as more than 1,400 biography videos of great Chachamim that were of yesteryear. So that's definitely one reason why to join our community and to educate more. And we try and go explore mostly about the famous Sephardic Rabbanim. And we also recorded video on Parshat HaShavua. We also do a video on not just great rabbis, we will do on current events. That's another thing that I have to point out that we are trying to work on at the moment. Current events, what's going on in the world, the Jewish world, Israel in of itself, and so on and so forth. And we are exploring so much more. And we do a lot of traveling all over Israel, which is also very exciting. We go to different archaeological places, landmark places, famous places. Yesterday we were privileged enough to go towards the famous Kotel, the Western Wall, and film there various videos at various different points of time. But very interesting. George Jacobs, I think, left many papers also of different writings, which were printed in various different cities. And obviously, he lived a short but very active life. So friends, once again, please subscribe to the channel and join and enjoy our fantastic content. I wish you all a good day. We're coming into Shabbat tomorrow night, so wishing you all in advance a Shabbat Shalom Umevorach. And please keep watching every single day the great Torah content that we've got. And it's there's a lot more coming up next week that I will definitely tell you in the meantime, a lot of content where we plan on recording. We're going to upload some videos with some really the top notch rabbis across the world. So that's very, very exciting. Something to definitely for all of us to look forward to. And there's so much more fantastic content, which I can't recommend enough for all of us to actually look at that at the moment. So very, very interesting. And I recommend everyone also please look over the Parsha video we recorded on the weekly Torah portion. That was very, very exciting this week because there was a lot to actually cover ground. We did like an in-depth, let's just say, Torah analysis on the weekly Torah portion, which is of Vayigash. And I just want everyone to look over that. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, friends. And please educate, make the most of every single moment. And have a fantastic night and a Shabbat Shalom V'rach. So thanks for watching and take care. Thank you.